You people are going to have to travel because you'll be in Singapore on June 12th.
The summit with North Korea, it is still on, happening in Singapore on June 12th.
There's so much winning going on today. A huge jobs report for this country. Look at this headline from the New York Times. We ran out of words to describe how good the job numbers are.
It was great news, and the media just wanted to distract and divert attention.
Do you beat Donald Trump?
Two guys from Queens. That would be interesting. New Yorkers know how to talk to other New Yorkers. You know?
He, along with every single Democrat who's ever held elective office, is thinking about running in 2020. There's going to be so little oxygen in the room.
Former CIA Director John Brennan furthering his attacks on President Trump.
I think Mr. Trump has demonstrated a paranoia and insecurity.
No single figure in American history has done more to discredit the intelligence community than this liar. He's a liar about being a liar.
I'm thrilled to be here with the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected. It's about time.
About you, but I come from the wild, wild west of Utah, and camping is a huge thing out there. It is
Wild West,
pretty
Abby.
wild. But this is what it's all about: the summertime, being with your family. You know this, Pete.
It's a ton of fun.
What you do with
so
your boys.
June is National Camping Month. You're totally right. Last year I went camping at Sherwood Forest near Wanamingo, Minnesota, in a tent for 3 days. We tubed down the river.
Wow.
We didn't shower. We didn't change clothes. We were super
You act
smelly.
like that's different
We
than
ate
normal
things-
for you.
Yeah, you could have left that part out.
It's basically a normal day. You're right. You have to sit next to me. But it is. It's National Camping Month. We got RVs on the plaza. We're going to talk about it. We're having fun.
I don't know
It's
if you
June.
would be
It
a
feels
good
like
camper,
summer.
Ed.
You don't think I'm going to care? I was just about to say, it's funny you have a shot at me because I was wondering if you go camping with your family, you're the one who sweeps up and whatnot. You know, like everyone has a job.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Because remember when you tried to show us how to use a broom?
Hold on, Ed. Have you?
You had clearly never used one.
Have you ever been
You're like,
camping?
how do I use this?
Wait, have you ever been camping?
No, I don't think so.
You've never been
I
camping
don't think- I grew
before.
up on Long Island. We don't camp.
We should do a Fox and Friend weekend road trip.
We
I don't-
should.
no, let's
in an
not.
RV.
In an
Show up in the
RV?
RV.
No, I don't
do
think
some
we should.
camping.
What
What would I do in the
Would you
woods?
survive? Well, you'd have Pete by your
Could we
side.
have competition? Wait, what? If he's
He
going
can
to save
help
me?
you.
It could
gonna
be like
save him.
Survivor, Fox and Friends weekend.
We should.
Oh my gosh. Let us know what you think. Should we take a camping trip? Friends at foxnews.com.
should.
But good morning to all of you. Happy Saturday morning. And we have got a lot of news to get to, starting with a Fox News alert. The historic North Korean summit, it is back on.
And a top official from the country hand-delivering a letter in a very large envelope from Kim Jong-un to President Trump at the White House to seal the deal.
Correct depiction. Rich Edson is live in Washington with the latest. Rich, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Abby, Ed, and Pete. And they met for more than an hour in the Oval Office, the president and the North Korean vice chairman. When they emerged, President Trump announced officially that his meeting with Kim Jong-un June 12th in Singapore as originally planned. Vice Chairman Kim Yong-chol is the first official from North Korea in the White House in 18 years. He originally flew to New York to meet Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Kim brought with him a letter from Kim Jong-un to President Trump and instructions to deliver it. Ultimately, his ticket to the White House.
It was a very interesting letter, and at some point it may be appropriate, and maybe I'll be able to give it to you. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Really, this was a letter presentation that ended up being a 2-hour conversation.
The president says the U.S. is suspending additional sanctions against North Korea pending the outcome of this summit. Officials say the U.S. is still applying previously implemented sanctions against North Korea. The president says the two did not discuss human rights yesterday, though noted the June 12th summit will likely start a long process of negotiations. Back to you.
All right, Rich Edson,
Thanks,
live
Rich.
for us.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Big deal, though. I mean, as of now, because things seem to change every day, but the summit is still on. Ed, you're going to be there.
Yeah, I'll be in Singapore June 12th.
June 12th. And as the president said, he's setting the expectations right, saying this is just the first of what we hope to be many, many meetings together, because this is the talk of ending potentially a 70-year war.
We're trying to manage
wars in history.
expectations because Democrats are already saying, oh, he's not going to get this done on June 12th. Well, of course, you're not going to get this done in 24 hours. But if you move the ball forward a lot farther forward than Barack Obama ever did, for example, or any Republican or Democratic president.
I think
for the
we're
last
already
quarter
there.
century.
We're already much
We're
further
already
along
in a
than we
much
ever
stronger
have.
place than we were.
And of course, Ed gets to go to Singapore.
Yeah.
I haven't been camping, but I have been to Singapore.
You get to go to Singapore. Very cool. Well, the resistance, as you know, continues here. And former CIA Director John Brennan, he continues to audition for captain of the resistance. He gave an interview talking about President Trump, talking about paranoia and insecurity. Listen to John Brennan.
I think Mr. Trump has demonstrated a paranoia and insecurity, as well as a real concern about the investigation that is underway. Certainly his tweets do not seem like they're coming from a person of innocence and confidence. Mr. Trump is going to promote his narrative. He certainly is going to continue to try to discredit the FBI and the CIA and others. But I think, make no mistake about it, the American justice system, I think, is going to prevail in this endeavor to get to the bottom of who might have been collaborating and working with foreign actors to try to undermine the integrity of the election.
I saw that interview. The number of times he said Mr. Trump, deliberately not calling him the president, not accepting that he's a president, is ridiculous, number one. Number two, to repeatedly attack the president of the United States and say he's politicizing the intelligence community and all of this, when in fact, as the former CIA director, you're supposed to be nonpartisan. He clearly was a political actor here in terms of how he handled the dossier and other things, and just what he's saying now. And you haven't seen this from CIA directors in any administration, Democrat or Republican. He's out there partisan attacks on the president left and right.
Well, you can expect to keep hearing from him because he says until integrity is brought back to the White House, he's going to continue speaking out.
He's the arbiter of integrity now.
You bring up a great point, and I've thought a lot recently about the morale at the CIA, at the FBI, because you think beyond just the folks at the top, some of the bad apples that we've seen, you've got thousands and thousands of employees that are there for the right reasons, that are really trying to fight and do the job for this country. You wonder how they're feeling when you have folks like John Brennan, who used to run the CIA, who are so political, who are so opinionated, and they're thinking, this is not our job. We
and
serve
James Comey at the FBI.
Yes.
Right? And Andrew McCabe. So it's not just the CIA, as you mentioned rightly, it's the FBI as well, the people at the top.
Rank and file folks they always say they're dispirited by Trump's attacks of the CIA and the FBI. No, you're dispirited by leaders who are politicizing those departments. You just want straight shooters at the top. Listen, John Brennan better be right, because he's in the middle of all of this, and there's still more to come out. And what he says now will be used against him in or outside the court of law. It'll be, he seems to think he's the arbiter of truth. We will find out, because the truth usually exposes itself. Former Attorney General Michael Mukasey had some interesting comments. He knows about these realms. He had some comments on John Brennan. Listen.
Maybe he should be told to stick to his day job. The trouble is, I think, given what we're finding out about the way he did his day job, including his participation in putting an informant into the Trump campaign, maybe we're better off with him as kind of an amateur pundit. I think that he may be projecting his own views, if I may be an amateur psychiatrist for the moment, onto the president, because he is going to have a lot to answer for, I believe, when the entire story gets told about what the CIA was doing in connection with the running of the investigation, and what it was doing with regard to what had been its informant.
I like it when Michael Mukasey says what I said, even though I didn't know he was going to say it. He's going to have a lot to answer for if he's wrong.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And what he also said is he's putting his own personal political beliefs on all of this. And that's a dangerous place to be, especially when you are in a role as head of the CIA at one point.
Now, interesting, another big story this week is the president again trying to negotiate better trade deals, fairer trade for America. It's something he talked about in the campaign again and again. He instituted these new tariffs for steel and aluminum, even against some allies. It's not just battling China. It's also now taking on Canada, taking on various European allies, as well as Mexico. And Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, very closely aligned with Barack Obama, has been attacking this president on climate change and other issues. Look, he's standing up for his country the way President Trump is standing up for our country, and you can understand that on one hand. On the other hand, he tapes this interview for this weekend's Meet the Press on NBC, where he seems to go a lot further and seems to take this into kind of a very nasty...
It's one thing to take issue with trade tariffs and a battle to even it out. It's another thing to say it's about the troops. Listen.
Our soldiers who had fought and died together on the beaches of World War II, in the mountains of Afghanistan, and have stood shoulder to shoulder in some of the most difficult places in the world, that are always there for each other, somehow this is insulting to them. The idea that we are somehow a national security threat to the United States is quite frankly insulting and unacceptable.
Yeah,
It pulls at the heartstrings, though.
Well, that's what
I
he's
think
trying to
that's
do.
what he's trying to do. Is
Of
he wants
course.
to remind his people that that we've all worked together so closely. And what the president has said from the beginning, he's not been a fan of NAFTA. And he says we continue to get the short end of the stick. This is what I've been fighting for. This is why I wanted to become president. And people shouldn't be surprised because he's following through on something that he's been saying from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I don't say this, but as someone who's stood shoulder to shoulder, literally in Afghanistan with troops from Canada, many of which are wonderful, this type of back and forth on trade has nothing to do with an alliance that's been around for a long time. I'm grateful for a lot of the service of Canadian troops. Unfortunately, their government puts a lot of caveats on them, and they often can't be in combat the way they want to be, which is a whole other issue. But come on, Justin from Canada, you can do better than that.
We'll see where this ends, though, because Macron has also said this is illegal. So a lot of people are unhappy, but the president...
Wait, are there international police? It's not legal if we want to do it. That's my opinion.
We will see. All right, a lot going on this morning. I want to bring you some other headlines. A man dies after pushing kids out of the way when a car barrels down a baseball field. Watch this.
Oh my God.
That is unreal. Witnesses say a woman drove her car through a stadium gate that the man was trying to close. The 68-year-old died on the way to the hospital in Maine. That is so sad. Police arresting and charging the driver, Carol Sharrow, seen right here with manslaughter. The motive is still under investigation. Also, this Defense Secretary James Mattis slamming China for militarizing artificial islands in the South China Sea. Listen.
Despite China's claims to the contrary, the placement of these weapon systems is tied directly to military use for the purposes of intimidation and coercion. It calls into question China's broader goals.
Mattis warning of much larger consequences if the country ignores the international community. The secretary making those remarks overnight at an international security forum in Singapore. Also, listen to this story. An Uber driver accused of shooting and killing a passenger now under arrest. Officials holding the driver Michael Hancock on suspicion of first-degree murder. You can see him right there. A witness telling police that the driver said the victim tried to attack him before he killed the passenger. The suspect was handcuffed at the scene in Denver. Uber says, quote, "Our thoughts are with the families of those involved, and we will continue working closely with police." And President Trump praising America's first line of defense as the Coast Guard welcomes a new commander.
America is safe because our Coast Guard is strong. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected again. We're being respected abroad.
Admiral Carl Schultz relieving Admiral Paul Zukov. Schultz was previously an operational commander for all U.S. Coast Guard missions from the Rocky Mountains to the Arabian Gulf.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, the Trump economy surging right now with the unemployment rate hitting an 18-year low. But the media seems to be melting down over a controversial tweet.
Why would the president tell all of America to look at the jobs numbers if the jobs numbers were not good?
Needs insider trading when you can get the cheat sheet directly from the president.
Insider trading. Let's ask the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Kevin Hassett. He's live from the White House next.
Tell me more, John King. And can you I can't read, though. John King could probably read. I can't. Can you do Roseanne without Roseanne? ABC might try. We're going to bring you an update ahead.
The U.S. economy really seems to be booming. The May jobs report revealing 223,000 jobs were added last month. The unemployment rate dropped to an 18-year low. But for some in the media, President Trump's tweet saying he was looking forward to the report was much bigger news.
A lot of people scratching their heads about why the president decided to tweet about it beforehand.
Why would the president tell all of America to look at the jobs numbers if the jobs numbers were not good?
He was so eager to trumpet the news, he broke years of presidential protocol.
Who needs insider trading when you can get the cheat sheet directly from the president? It's hardly the first time the president has broken the rules when it comes to sharing sensitive, sometimes even classified information.
Joining us now live from the White House, Chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Kevin Hassett. Good morning, Kevin.
So,
Yeah, so I don't want to completely let the president off the hook, because you do get this information, I believe, the night before, and you do know that there's a protocol where you're not supposed to reveal this information and potentially move the markets ahead of that 8:30 a.m. Eastern release of the jobs numbers. On the other hand, it seems like there's an awful lot of people in the media who want to focus on that instead of the fact that there was good news here.
Right, and in fact, the news was just astonishing, as you know, that it's really the strongest labor market that we've seen in many, many years. You know, right now we have to go all the way back to before 1970 to see sustained periods with unemployment this low, and wage growth is really picking up. And so, you know, I think there are a lot of people in the media that don't want to cover the good news of Donald Trump's economy, and so they're looking for something to say. The president, let's look at what he said. He said, geez, I'm looking forward to seeing the data. Of course he's looking forward to seeing the data. That's what you want in the commander-in-chief. You want someone who's looking forward to see it. Now, I get the point that we don't want him tweeting right before every release, and he's like, oh, hey guys, don't bother looking at the data tomorrow and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, of course that would be out of hand, but that's not what happened. We also went back and looked at previous administrations, so there are many, many episodes where previous administrations actually did something way worse than what President Trump did, and nobody noticed.
Interesting. Now, speaking of tweets, a few moments ago, I saw the president tweeted from Camp David that the New York Times actually had a headline saying, we ran out of positive words. We ran out of amazing adjectives, basically, to explain how good this economy is. That's a pretty good place for this president to be.
Yeah, and let's put it in perspective. So if we go back to all the way to 1970, there have been 7 months where we've had the unemployment rate below 4, and we just had 2 of them. I mean, that's how good the economy is. Think all the way back to 1970, there have been ups, there have been downs. There was Ronald Reagan's economy. We're doing better than that right now, and we're doing it for good reasons, because President Trump changed a bunch of failed Obama policies. He's been deregulating, he had the big tax cut, and he's got an aggressive trade agenda that's also bringing jobs back
I'm glad you mentioned Barack Obama, because this week we saw a quote from him basically saying, I set things up for Donald Trump, and that basically this is an Obama recovery and you're enjoying the fruits of it.
You know, that's just false. The fact is that the Obama economy in the last 2 years was barely struggling along to grow around 2%. And the Obama economists, like Larry Summers, were telling us that we had this thing called secular stagnation, which was this new normal where we're going to have low growth forever. So it wasn't Obama's policies. It was the fact that the Martians have condemned us to grow slow forever, pretty much, right?
Well, I don't know what,
so that President Trump comes in and he changes the policies, and boom, we're growing at 3%.
Well, I don't know what the Martians say, but I know that I believe the Atlanta Fed said you may have growth. They're predicting of as high as 4.7% pretty soon. So that is a much different place.
Yeah,
that's right. All right. Kevin Hassett, we appreciate you joining us live from the White House.
Thank you.
Good. Coming up, remember this heartwarming moment? A 9-year-old boy with muscular dystrophy hugging the president as he signs the Right to Try bill. He's here to share his amazing personal story. There he is. Good morning, buddy. We're going to see him next.
Welcome back. Some quick headlines for you. The Pentagon set to take over security clearance checks. U.S. officials say the DOD will soon run all background investigations for the federal government. The move is an effort to tighten controls and clear a backlog of workers awaiting clearances. I know plenty of folks still waiting. And the U.S. shooting down a United Nations resolution to the deadly conflict in Gaza. The proposal condemns Israel, of course, for their use of force, calling for the protection of Palestinians, probably not acknowledging Hamas. But UN Ambassador Nikki Haley calls it grossly one-sided for not mentioning, well, as I said, the Hamas militant group. Abby, down to you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, this week, President Trump kept another promise to the American people by signing the Right to Try bill into law. It lets patients with terminal illnesses receive experimental treatments not yet approved by the FDA. And one of those patients who was so grateful for it, he could not wait to give the president a hug. Watch this. Such a sweet moment. That was 9-year-old Jordan McClin, who is battling a Duchenne muscular dystrophy. He and his family have fought so hard for the bill that his name is even on it. Jordan and his mom, Laura McClin, join us right now to tell us what this all means to them. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, Laura, let's start with you. Talk to us for folks that don't know what DMD is, what it's also referred to. What is that? At what point did you know that something was not right with Jordan, and how has his life been since?
So Jordan was almost 4 when he was diagnosed with Duchenne, which is a fatal muscle wasting disease that affects about 1 in 3,500 boys. He's now 9 and he's doing great. He's part of a clinical trial. We've been traveling to Chicago once a week for 65 weeks, and he's doing amazing.
Jordan, you have such a sweet smile. So we've all seen that video of you with President Trump on stage, and he gives you a hug. What did he say about your hair? Do you remember?
That it was very nice, and if he had that hair 10 years before he was president, he would be president.
So sweet.
Earlier.
Laura, talk to us about this bill, the right to try. What does that mean specifically to you and all you've been through?
Well, we're so excited. We started out with right to try at the state level when Jordan didn't qualify for a clinical trial, but we knew there were treatments coming up through the pipeline that could slow the progression of his disease. So, we started lobbying for that at the state level, and we were there with then Governor Pence when it was signed into law. And now 40 states have passed right to try laws to give terminally ill patients the right to try potentially life-saving treatments before they are fully FDA approved. So fast forward a little, and Jordan made it into a clinical trial, but we have stayed the course and continued to fight so that other patients would have access to these potentially life-saving medications.
Yeah. Jordan, I want to remind people, if they missed it, the moment that you shared with the president where he talks about how great your hair is. Watch this.
If I looked like that, I would have been president 10 years earlier. If I had that face, if I had that head of hair, I would have been president so long ago.
So cute. Jordan, you are such a cutie. A little birdie told me that you want to be a firefighter one day. Is that true?
Yeah, and I already am a firefighter.
Oh, you are? Well, so do you have your own locker? And oh, we have video right there of you. Tell us what you do as a firefighter.
I have my own locker. I have my own locker.
Why
and
do you,
I have a suit.
Why do you want to be a firefighter, Jordan?
Because it saves a lot of lives.
Yeah, well, you are a fabulous firefighter. We are lucky to have you. Jordan, if the president is watching and the vice president, if they're watching you right now, is there anything that you want to tell them?
Well, I want to tell the vice president a joke.
Let's hear it.
How do you make a tissue dance?
I don't know.
You put a boogie in it.
You put a boogie in it. That is a good one. Jordan, you are a funny man. Laura, what about you? Is there anything, any last words that you want to say to the president or the vice president if they're watching?
Oh, gosh. I mean, thank you. It's not enough, but there are just no other words. We're just so honored and grateful that they were so supportive of Right to Try and just helped us get this across the finish line. So we are very, very grateful for that.
Well, we wish you and your family all the luck in the world. Jordan, you do have amazing hair. It was so good to talk to you today, and good luck as a firefighter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, you guys. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
What a cute kid. All right, a California church says they are better off without police, but is writing off cops the right message to send? Plus, the U.S. summit with North Korea, it is back on, but one logistic remains unsolved. Who is going to pay for Kim Jong-un's hotel room? Should it be the U.S.? And speaking of that summit, President Trump getting a hand-delivered letter from Kim, the huge letter we've all seen by now becoming a punchline this morning. More on that coming up.
Of the morning. the one and only envelope, the big envelope, the big.
Look at the
beautiful envelope.
size of this thing. So that is the envelope. That is the number 2 North Korean official in the White House yesterday with President Trump handing over a letter that was written by Kim Jong-un himself to President Trump. Obviously, they knew who they were delivering it to when you look at the size of the envelope.
I mean, everyone thought we were getting a tri-folded 8.5 by 11. Instead, we got a monster. Is the font big? Is it in English? Is it in Korean? We don't know yet what's inside, but we know the envelope is huge. and so this was a big photo, of course, on the internet. Then, of course, anyone who watched Game 1 of the NBA Finals or saw the fallout also saw LeBron James's reaction to J.R. Smith running out the clock when the game was tied. So we just combined the two.
Yeah, so there's a meme out there on Twitter of the big giant envelope. Like, JR, come on, open this thing up. And, oh, man, that was such a remarkable
I mean, only LeBron James can actually get his hands halfway around that
he's
letter.
A big dude. He's a machine. I'll say, I mean, that is, sometimes the internet just delivers. Thank you, internet.
So, look, there's a serious story here, which is about, like, how will this summit go forward and how will cash-poor North Korea actually pay for Kim Jong-un's hotel room? So the president of the United States...
They're so cash-poor, they can't pay for his hotel
He can't pay for a hotel. Bizarre. But President Trump is going to be staying at this beautiful resort in Singapore. The U.S. is going to pay for its own rooms, obviously, for the entire delegation.
There's now a report out saying that the U.S. is trying to discreetly find a way to pay for Kim Jong-un's room.
Because the U.S. doesn't want to pay for this 5-star resort where Kim Jong-un will stay, because obviously then it will look like we're paying to have him sit down with President Trump. And you'll remember, we got those 3 hostages from North Korea without giving a dollar. There were no pallets of cash like we saw in the Obama.
You better believe there weren't. It's called, I think, the Fullerton Hotel. The presidential suite is $6,000 a night. They would want to pay discreetly if they did. There's also worry that they might offend Kim Jong-un's regime if they pay for the hotel room. So does the U.S. pay for it? If not, maybe Singapore pays for it.
That's one way they're looking at, according to the
My
Washington
idea
Post.
is
Why can't North Korea pay for it?
No, my idea is I think Mexico should pay for it. After the wall, they pay for Kim Jong-un's hotel
They say
room.
they're not paying for the wall. You've been pushing this narrative for so long.
Maybe they'll pay for the Singapore.
True.
But can North Korea not afford the hotel room? I'm confused.
I don't understand that
I'm
either.
also wondering how he physically gets to Singapore, because if you think about the planes they still use are these Russian warplanes that can't travel very far.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't only the
you're
hotel
right.
room.
I've heard some experts say that was a big consideration. It was Singapore was close enough to North Korea that if physically their planes weren't going to be able to make it to Europe, or if you pick Switzerland or somewhere.
The downside of being a hermit kingdom is you're a hermit, and it's hard to come out from your shell. No, I mean I think that's an
and
actual
the serious
real
point
thing.
is that meanwhile he's starving his people. His people are starving in North Korea. He has some means. He's living like a king in his own way.
Why can't he pay for it himself?
There's got to be some weird logistical thing. Maybe international sanctions. Money can't transfer.
I don't buy
We don't
it.
want to pay. There's something
I don't
fishy.
buy it.
Or this is the new excuse, the new distraction. Who's paying for whose hotel room, as opposed to the historic nature of this meeting on June 12th that could actually solve the problem. On
I just can't imagine the U.S. is secretly trying to pay for it, because that doesn't look good for anybody.
I just hope that Kim Jong-un doesn't get that 5-star resort so that Fox will put me there when I'm covering the summit. There'll be extra rooms.
You're more important, Ed.
Your contract demands 5 stars.
Yeah, of course. That's why I don't camp, by the way.
What do you think, though? Who should pay for Kim Jong-un's hotel room in Singapore? Friends at foxnews.com. All right, a lot more going on this morning, though. I want to bring you some other headlines we're following. A highly anticipated report on the FBI's handling of the Clinton email investigation now hit with a new delay. The Senate Judiciary Committee pushing its hearing with Inspector General Michael Horowitz to June 11th. This as we wait for the release of Horowitz's report, which many expected to already be out by now. Byron York, a columnist with the Washington Examiner, explains what could be taking so long.
It is clearly being held up by redactions, by privacy concerns, and by, frankly, I think by feet being dragged at various places in the bureaucracy.
Well, now we're hearing that Horowitz's report could be released next week. We will see. Yeah. All right, we'll take a close look at this Republican's picture on Google search results for North Carolina State Senator Trudy Wade, showing her image with the word bigot smeared across it. Google says it is still unclear how the edited headshot appeared, saying the image is removed. Well, this marking Google's second blunder in 1 week after search results listed Nazis as an ideology for the Californian Republican Party. Yikes. Also, listen to this. ABC might be looking into a second reboot of Roseanne with a focus on Sarah Gilbert.
Dad, will you tell her how stupid she's being?
That's never worked out for me.
This is according to TMZ. The network is considering rebranding the show, focusing on Gilbert's character Darlene. Gilbert has reportedly been contacting cast members to see if they would also be on board in case the network moves forward. ABC canceled the sitcom, of course, after Roseanne Barr posted a racist tweet targeting former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett. And the military is revealing a new tool aimed at giving soldiers an edge on the battlefield. The U.S. Army Research Lab releasing footage of a mechanical third arm to help troops shoot the perfect shot. Look at this. Officials say the stabilizing device can improve marksmanship and work to take the weight of a heavy weapon off of the soldier's arms. The prototype is still being tested. What do
It's
you
like
think?
a mobile tripod, you know, because you do need that steady. And when you're moving, your rifle's going up and down, but it almost feels unwieldy. Like, where is it when you're not? I don't know. They'll test it.
That's why it's a
find
trial
out.
run, I guess.
That's why it's a trial
I
run.
wonder if
But
meteorologists could use that as well.
yeah. Rick's like,
He's not
nope.
even listening to us.
How you doing, Rick?
Hey, what you just said again. We watch Fox all the time in Australia, Fox News.
There you go.
Foxtel, we love it.
In case Pete couldn't understand, you said we watch Fox News all the time in Australia.
That's exactly
Thank you
what-
very much. Thank you. We're happy you're here. Our Anna Koyman went to Australia. Maybe you guys have a better chance of seeing her there now. Take a look at the weather map. Show you what's going on. We are going to have some showers across parts of the Mid-Atlantic later on today. It's going to get a little bit heavier. Could be looking at a little bit of localized flooding. Unfortunately, kind of a washout of the weekend right there. Down across the southeast, we're going to see some showers, especially along the coastline as well. Other than that, down across parts of Texas, Oklahoma, just hot and humid hanging out. That soggy air is going to hang out across the northern plains. Some big storms this morning. Later on, we'll see some afternoons firing across parts of Missouri and some heavier showers moving in across parts of Minnesota. Behind that storm, much nicer air moving in. And finally, out across the west, take a look at that. Just sunshine everywhere, heating up a lot across parts of the desert southwest this weekend. All right, guys.
Hey, Rick, it's the first time I've ever heard the term soggy air. Is that a real
Soggy
meteorological
air.
term?
It is.
Is it?
Do you know what I'm so impressed with, Pete? You were listening.
I was listening.
I feel honored.
Always listening. For you, I'm always listening. And Janice. And
There you go.
It's
There
true.
you go.
Rick.
Yes,
Thanks, brother.
nicely
All
done.
right, someone just tweeted me saying, let's start a GoFundMe page account
For
for
Kim
Kim
Jong-un?
Jong-un to take paper.
Good luck.
Too much.
All right, moving on. A church in California. It's asking its congregation to never call the police again.
We honor the memory of all who have been killed by state violence by declaring our intention to reduce reliance on policing and incarceration.
Whoa. But is writing off law enforcement as state violence really the right message to send?
Spoiler alert, no. Plus, Geraldo Rivera, California Congressman Duncan Hunter, and Neil Cavuto, all here, live, coming up in the next hour.
That is a lineup.
Good morning again. Some quick headlines. The Fed's discovering a surveillance breach near the White House and around the Washington area. A new Department of Homeland Security probe revealing high-tech devices intercepted cell phone calls and text messages last year. It's unclear who is behind the spying, but experts say the devices are commonly used by Chinese and Russian intel agencies. And sanctuary policies putting our safety at risk again. According to a DHS report, more than 400 illegal immigrants were released from jail in New York City and put back, yes, onto the streets. ICE flagging hundreds of criminals as deportation targets from January to April of this year, but city officials would only hold those the mayor's office deemed too dangerous. Pete?
Well, a church in California asking its congregation to never call the police again.
We honor the memory of all who have been killed by state violence by declaring our intention to reduce reliance on policing and incarceration.
This all comes as 26 police officers have been killed in the line of duty this year alone. So is this really the right message the church should be sending?
Here to react is Pastor Dimas Salaberios of the Infinity Bible Church and president of Concerts of Prayer. Thank you very much for being here this morning,
it's
sir.
a joy to be here.
Okay, so what is the rationale the church is using, first of all? And second of all, who will they call if they need help?
And this is the part that concerns me, and not to. I understand that people are concerned and people are arguing, saying maybe there should be some reform happening with how things are going on, but this kind of leads to vigilantism, which I don't really see going well. Like if your house gets robbed twice, don't call the cops, depend on us as the church, and then what next? You're going to go to the street like Death Wish? I just don't really see this going well, and I think they got to be very careful with their being zealous, but probably in a wrong way.
And how does this help bring a community together, right? Because that's ultimately the problem. We're trying to bring folks together, to rely on police, to trust police, but also the other side of that is making sure the police are doing their jobs correctly. What does this do to the morale of the community? Doesn't this just further spread them apart?
Well, history has shown that when people take this approach, then crime seems to usually increase because word gets out. Nobody around here is going to tell the cops what's going on. And sometimes that empowers those that want to do illegal actions to really go further than what they would ever go before. That's a great point. So they really got to think through this whole strategy, and it concerns me. When in the Bible, in Matthew 26, when Peter went and said, I'm going to cut off the ear of this guard, very quickly Jesus corrected him and said, stop, don't do this. Over and over in Scripture, it challenges authorities to say, hey, live a certain way with the power you've been given, but nowhere does it say, get out of our community, we're going to do this ourselves. The church needs the police, as well as often I'm called on, the police needs the church. Sure. So this is not us versus police, and she's not the mouthpiece for the church.
That's a great point. It's a great point. Other churches have joined this. We reached out to the Oakland Police Department and we're awaiting a response from them. But part of the original rationale that this church put out, and this is a direct quote from a post online, no more state-sponsored crucifixions in the name of safety. So this pastor, this church is saying when a police officer makes a call, they're crucifying people. I mean, that seems just outright sacrilegious.
Yeah, I don't know any clergy member. And sometimes as clergy, I wish we could police each other as clergy, hold each other accountable for our statements. But some people get a mic, get attention, get a camera on them and say what they feel at that moment. But I think they really need to think through this, because this could be really dangerous for their community, dangerous for their congregation. So they'll definitely be in my prayers. And if we could reach them, I'd love to communicate with them and say, hey, I could show you examples, real life examples where this has gone really bad and you don't need to walk down that road.
Pastor, you really speak from experience. I love having you here to talk about this because you have your own past. I mean, you were a drug dealer.
Yes.
Before you found religion, and that completely changed your life.
Yes. So the streets is something that I do know.
Yeah.
Wrote a book called Street God. Don't want to relive that and don't want their community to relive that. Because if I saw this and I was hip on the news, I'd be like, what? All right, guys, set up on this block, set up on that block, go over there. They're going to cover us. They're going to watch our back. Nobody's going to call. And then, homicides increase, violence increase. And then that person, that pastor who will probably be in bed crying, saying, what did I kind of lead here, instead of leading the right way.
Dimas, sometimes we have segments and we don't have the right guests. This time we had the absolute perfect guest for this topic. Thank you for your time this morning.
Oh, thank you.
Really
Thank you for all you do.
Great to have you here. All right, well, President Trump pardoning conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. But could another name soon get added to his list? We're reviewing the case of Army officer Clint Lawrence, convicted in a combat incident just ahead.
That's one you've been calling for, right, Pete? All right, and it is National Camping Month, so we are showing you how to amp up your campfire this summer. That's coming up next.
Steak on the fire, I think.
Okay. Can you smell the campfire? June is National Camping Month, and if you are one of the 23 million Americans who plan to go RV camping this summer, you probably will be cooking over a campfire at some point.
And here to show you how to take your campfire cooking up a whole new notch is the one and only Chef David Burke from Tavern 62 here in New York City and BLT Prime at the Trump Hotel in D.C.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
All right.
Great to have you.
All right, get us grilling.
They got to get the fire a little higher up so I don't have to bend down so much.
So I've tried to do campfire cooking is not easy. How do you do it?
Well, you got to control the flame. That's the key. You need long utensils.
Is using your hands part of it as
I
well?
do it because I'm like a caveman, so I've been cooking for so long.
You're my kind of man. We've got, of course, meat.
You got
but
steaks,
got pineapple.
Pineapple in the cinders. We got a melon. You want to grab the melon, Ed?
Yeah, let's do it.
Put that here. I roasted a whole.
Roasted a melon? Look at Ed showing off his camping
He's
skills.
never been camping before.
This is a fire hazard waiting to happen.
So,
you nailed it.
Well, let's start here. So you got, this is a great idea. Paint cans, fill it up with a clam bake, add water, tomato sauce.
Paint
put
cans?
the lid on.
I love that.
Just get the great idea.
A paint can clam bake.
Get the paint out first.
Get the paint. We did chicken wings, the
that's the
lobster.
problem.
Of course, the meats. Here's something I like to do. I put my steak sauce. It's called B1.
Oh, is
and
that
then
a
we do
paint
the,
roller? That's
roller.
amazing.
This is
It's
very
easy. It's a
paint-based.
little more fun.
what do
Fruits.
you do with the
Use what's
melon?
in the supermarkets. Fruits, vegetables on skewers, fish. Look what we did here.
And I always felt like tinfoil is key to a
Fish,
campfire.
foil, herbs, right on
I
the grill.
love that. Yeah, you put everything in a foil.
I put olive
and stick
oil
it there.
that goes on the grill.
Okay.
And here you go.
And how about the meat? What's the best way to do
Look at
fish
that.
and tinfoil? How about, is it just meat straight on?
Meat straight on. You just don't want to overchar it. But the fish, chicken breast, there's a chicken in this foil pouch here too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
David, this
All right.
is fabulous.
So you got, and then this is key.
what's
Oh.
in there?
Look at this.
We gotta
Oh, I
have the
think-
grand finale.
Was that ice cream?
Ice cream.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
Dessert while
Everybody.
camping?
And then here's the
Barely
next
camping.
thing.
Oh, Ed, good luck with that.
And this is stewed fruit right on the grill.
Oh my gosh. All right.
So have a little fun with the grill. It's not just for chicken
I got this.
and hamburgers.
All right, we're going to be eating.
Ed, you're
and we're gonna be
terrible. You're not
ordering
allowed.
more.
You want to sweep up?
We want to thank GoRVing.com.
There's bacon on the fire.
And what's coming up?
Coming up next, Geraldo Rivera, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and our own Neil Cavuto. A lot still to come on a Fox and Friends Saturday.
Oh, my God.
Thank you, David.